Hello, fellow people! Time to finish off the events of Volume 1, finally giving Blake some characterization and introducing a bunch of stuff for later events, like Penny and Sun, who I'll be drawing today. No, it's not confusing that his name is same as mine. First off, the speed paint. Muscles. Love drawing those. Kinda sarcasm. I didn't change anything about his body, he's great as is. No, the problems rose up when it came to fulfilling my goal of making Faunus more animalistic, which is, kinda hard to do with a monkey, since, humans are apes. So it was either making him a potentially offensive caricature, or leaving him the fuck alone as one of those closer to human types of Faunus. So the only animalization I gave Sun was making his ears slightly bigger and giving him a lot of body hair. As for outfit, it's also great, casual and laid back, showcases his personality perfectly. Because logistics, I made his pants have a special closure for his tail, so it won't be just spawning out of his pants weird. There's a channel down the back seam with a button closure on top, to close over his tail and keep pants in place. Nothing complicated or original. And now I shall scream for a little bit, and we can both enjoy the mutual understanding that his hair was a fucking struggle.
Ёбаный кактус, кто это придумал? Кто это, блядь, придумал? Все шут, что у Жана банана на голове, вот как это объяснить? Что это за полигонное чудо? Как это вообще работает, я не понимаю. Как это по-человечески будет выглядеть? Я пиздец просто не могу понять, что это за хрень такая. Оно на галлоне лака держится или как? Как это еще по-другому объяснить? Это пиздец просто, как будто нарезали кучу прядей и прилепили как попало. Как прибили, так и держится, блядь.
Thank you. Now we can move into the episode proper. The end of November crept in ever closer, and our guys kept doing what they're doing, hanging out and training together, going to class, and trying not to catch too many bad grades, unless you're Wise, who's constantly getting only A's and will accept nothing less. They also started all training together from time to time, doing mock battles with random combinations. Most of Jean's ended up with his ass on the floor, but he did manage to score a few wins against girls too. They quickly found out that Blake and Ruby aren't exactly great against people solo, they're more suited for big crowds and hordes of Grim. That was also the time when Ruby really started leaning into team moves, using both of their teams for her ideas. Nora was very excited about getting thrown around by his semblance for one. They also used to all hang out in Vale on weekends, but recently, completely out of nowhere, the temperature rapidly dropped to the point that it started snowing. It shouldn't be that surprising to have snow in December, it's just the suddenness, when just a week ago you could walk around in a t-shirt, especially unnatural for temperate Vale. But not like there's anything to do about it, so they just covered up more and called it done. Classes also continued as normal, ramping up in the last few weeks because of semester exams. Glinda especially went hard on everyone. Some speculated it's because she really wants a win for the school in the tournament next year. Our viewer will figure out later it's because she knows shit is brewing and wants kids to be prepared for it. Exams came and went. Some teachers made special things for it, like Anne, whose lessons already were an event every time. Some added up into just looking over ongoing grades, asking a few questions and being done with it, like Melbury. And some just gave you expected quizzes, like Oobleck. With exams done, some students started whining about still having to go to class in the last week. Why are they still going? They already finished everything. Can't you just let them go on holidays early? To be fair, the teachers also weren't exactly in the teaching mood, so the lessons were more laid back than usual in the last few days. Like, the geography class, which was on Mistral, turned into Mistrali students just chatting about their experiences from living there. Ren and Nora really went all out, since they traveled all over it. Nora mostly went on about the stories they've heard from their huntsman friends, and things they experienced themselves in their travels. And they have never seen Ren so chatty before. Initially Piero was going to talk about Argus, but when that started, she could only stare with mouths open at Ren excitedly describing the mountains around the Mistral city and the view at Lake Matsu and the unique species of trees native to Mistrali forests and everything. Ruby could only stare blankly, not because of Ren, but because all the town names and places are turning her brain into mush. Yang, though, is paying very close attention, just in case one of them mentioned something that she could recognize as a clue to find Raven. At the end of the lesson, the teacher mentions that they're going to have a lot more first-hand information during second semester, as transfer students come in for Vital. Some excited chatter goes through the crowd as they move into the next lesson. They really want to meet people from other schools, find out what it's like there. Though, as they get seated, someone notes that it's weird that students come to a whole another kingdom half a year in advance. Osmond chuckles, we know why, and explains that it's a choice the students have to check out the kingdom and institution in strongest fighters in advance, or continue training in your own kingdom and arrive only for the festival itself. He recognizes that it's a weird tradition from the outside view, but the reason for the festival always was discovering and exploring the cultures of the world, and it's easier to do with more time than in breaks between tournament fights. He hopes the explanation suffices and starts the lesson. Osman's literature class was always more quirky than others. The first time students came into the classroom, they genuinely thought they accidentally walked into a lounge or something. But no, it turns out it's only fitting that analysis of stories that brought us comfort be done in a comfortable environment. Namely, his classroom lacked the typical tables and benches. Instead, the platform steps of the auditorium were covered with plush carpets and comfy seats of different types, from beanbags to armchairs and couches, so everyone can pick whatever feels more comfortable to them. Osman himself had a grand ornate armchair with a big wooden desk in front of the bookshelves, with every story they covered in over the 4 years, in multiple copies in case someone can't look it up online for homework. Some were wondering, what does strict and no-nonsense Glinda think about the setup? Some noticed she's kinda softer on Osman's antics in general. And then others remembered that, oh yeah, Osman is a headmaster, he can do whatever the fuck he wants in his class. This week in particular, with the weather getting colder, Osman asked some of the students to start the fireplace on the other side of the classroom, the crackling of wood adding to the cozy winter atmosphere of the last lesson of this year, though he himself moved further away from it, inviting students to get warm next to it instead. They started discussing the shallow sea and other lesson-known faunus origin stories. Like Ren and Nora did for the geography lesson before, Blake, Pyrrha and Ruby took over this one, carrying the discussion while the rest of the class tried not to fall asleep. Well, they and many of the faunus students, some sharing the versions their parents told them, with different details. Osman is pleased, mentioning that it's the differences in retellings that make the stories and their analysis so interesting. What the changes are and how they change the meaning of the story can tell a lot. Blake, of course, feels comfortable enough talking so much in this class, under the convenient cover of reading a lot. And Pyrrha and Ruby are a great cover for her too. Thanks to them, she blends in as another human who's just very interested in fairy tales from different cultures, nothing sus here. Vice is bored and already subtly pulled out a notebook to start on geography homework. Yain raises an eyebrow at her, which makes her blush in embarrassment and put it back in her backpack, reminding the viewer that while not outwardly racist like Carden, she is willfully ignorant when it comes to faunus topics. Speaking of Carden, ever since that rumor about his mom's embarrassing nickname spread around, he's been quiet as a mouse. Well, he was pretty tame in Osman's class in general for obvious reasons, but now it's like he didn't even exist there despite the topic. Not even one sarcastic remark. Faunus students were very happy about it. And speaking of quiet as a mouse and the like comparisons, after class students wondered, if they were in a fairy tale, what animal would they be turned into once jumping into the sea? Yain jokes that Weiss would be a squirrel, and she's genuinely offended by the comparison, gasping dramatically with a hand over her heart. Blake says it's kind of inappropriate to say things like that. Yain apologizes but says that her faunus friends don't mind and say that themselves. Case in point, their classmates, who were right in the earshot enthusiastically coming up with species befitting their human friends. And because of the faunus topic, someone brings up White Fang and the latest news about them they've heard on TV. Nothing dramatic this time, just mentions of discussions happening between Mistral Council and Sienna Khan. Vice rolls her eyes. Since it's gotten colder, the two teams decide to go to Vale for some shopping. Girls joke about Weiss being the expert since she's from Atlas. She blushes and quietly explains that she's actually not that good with cold. Atlas has constant weather stabilization, it's warm there. Blake is freezing, shaking like a leaf and teeth chattering, since she's from tropics. Pyrrha's from Argus though, so she takes the lead, bringing them to a good store with assist from Yang and pointing out the best winter clothes. This, of course, turns to dress-up shenanigans. Nora surprises everyone with how great she is at styling others. She thinks it could be because she spent so long trying to find what feels right for herself, on top of something that fits her body type. And because her and Ren had to save up money, she learned how to make cute outfits with limited number of items, or making cheap stuff look as great as expensive ones. And turns out she also picked everything Ren wears, and that he himself is absolutely hopeless. Pyrrha gives Ren a subtle high five, or low five, someone who can relate on being a disaster at simple everyday things. Meanwhile, Nora drags up Jean to get him a good sweater, saying she saw the one he has and that even when she was a poor boy working for scraps, she wouldn't have worn that. While the gang are all looking around the shop and shenanigans around the place, some fans spot Pyrrha whispering about wanting to take a picture or an autograph. Pyrrha hears them and for a moment struggles to keep up a smile, pretending she doesn't see them, too busy looking through a selection of scarves. She's debating on whether to get it over with and approach them herself or ignore and run off to her friends. When Nora notices the fans too, and comes up to Pyrrha scratching her neck awkwardly, asking her for help on picking a good coat, dramatically explaining how hard it is to choose one. Pyrrha knows for a fact Nora doesn't need any help, but she's grateful for the distraction. She hears the fans sighing about how they missed their chance, maybe next time. Phew. She's about to keep looking through options, but Nora pulls her in further. I wasn't joking, I really do need your help. I can't pick between these two, they're both cute. Which one, pink with blue hearts or blue with pink hearts? Meanwhile, Yang offers to buy Blake a beanie since she seems to like having her head covered. Blake appreciates it and conveniently goes to try it on with the rest of the clothes she picked. Once they've had the fun and some of them bought the stuff they liked, they headed out. Vice paid for a few, saying to count it as New Year's presents. Vice also notices people hanging up banners, not just holiday ones, but welcoming and ones with Vale's insignia. Yen explains that they're welcoming visitors from other kingdoms, since in the next half a year they'll be slowly building up towards the festival. At least that's how it was back when Vital was in Vale last time. Vice is very interested in planning an organization that comes into it, but Yen says that she doesn't have a fucking clue. She was like 10. The parade was cool though. Ruby huffs.
Except for the part where you got distracted and lost me.
Ren heard that transfer students from Vacuo have started arriving today, and as a representative of Beacon, Vice wants to greet them, spying them. Juniper offered to bring their bags to the dorms with them, so they won't be going around with those. Girls take them up on that offer and go to the docks, Vice leading the charge. And on the way there, they see a robbed dust shop. The rest goes as usual. Cops mention White Fang, Vice railed up from the morning, and the news people have been discussing mixed rude comments, which for now doesn't really lead anywhere since they're only directed at White Fang and their recent criminal activities. Girls discuss other ideas and hear cops on the docks shouting to stop that funness. They turn to see Sun doing his Sun things and throwing a banana peel at a cop and then running away before they can slap him with a misdemeanor and, whatever one would get for stowing away. And on the way he gives Blake a wink, making her look at him in surprise. We will discuss that later. Hold your socks for now. Vice wants to see what other things he might pull and runs after him, literally running into Penny. Now, we need to do a thing. The thing being not spelling out immediately that Penny is a robot. So instead of just laying down like a weirdo on the ground, she sits up and greets them like that, prompting girls to ask if she's okay, like she didn't break a leg or something. Penny says she's feeling wonderful and takes the offered hand to get up to her feet. We won't change the lines, but we'll change the way she delivers them to sound more awkward and excitable than just weirdly overly hyper. So like, it's a pleasure to meet you.
You already said that.
Oh, so I did. She's just happy to meet new people and didn't realize she repeated herself, that's all. Anyway, Ruby offhandedly calls her friend and accidentally starts a very cute friendship for herself. Vice misunderstands that Penny must also be one of the students that came for festival from Vacuo, and thus must know the guy who came from the ship. Starts microaggressing all over the place and triggers Blake into finally snapping at her. We'll keep the cut translation of them arguing even when they get back to the dorms. Vice finally explains why she's so iffy around fondness and hates White Fang. We can add that flashback of Jacques yelling on the scroll from episode 12 in here again to illustrate the point further. Maybe even another tiny little flash of him yelling at Willow, foreshadowing for another moment we'll find out about her past. The memory of that just makes her angrier.
Weiss,
No! You want to know why I despise the White Fang? It's because they're a bunch of liars, thieves, and murderers!
Well, maybe we were just tired of being pushed around!
Blake runs away before anyone can move, with Ruby yelling for her to come back. She runs all the way to school and sees the statue here standing on top of a slain monster. The kind she's been compared to all of her life by humans who don't know the first thing about her or her people. She can barely hold in tears, ripping out the bandana she's been wearing in frustration, revealing her ears, that immediately jerk to the side hearing something, finally not being muffled. She turns towards the sound of someone moving, ready to fight if need to. But it's just Sun, sitting in a tree with a smirk. I knew you would look better without the thing.
I love Sun. He's such a good boy.
Blake used the perfect word for him. Ernest describes him to a T. He's the best fucking buddy to have. He will go with any idea you have and then will bail your ass out of it too. It's honestly astounding how he somehow has haters. Which I'm guessing are just salty bee-shippers that hiss at any male character that dares to come too close. And high beings forbid be friendly with one of the girls. Oh my god. But that's a discussion for very soon. Oh, and before someone starts, yeah, I know some people might also not like just how earnest and ride or die he is, but shush, we're not talking about contrarians like that. I know for a fact I will heavily enjoy writing new scenes with him, both for this episode and the ones further on. He's just my favorite type of male character. I love the sunshine happy ones. If he weren't a monkey, I would have thought he's a golden retriever. He's that type of character. Honestly, him and Ye would get along so well. They're in the same sunshine orbit. I can see them just hanging out together, pulling pranks on people. Wow, Blake really has a type. Before some very opinionated people shoot me for that comment, let's talk about that wink moment and how I'm recontextualizing it. More on the reasons for recontextualizing it in the next episode, for now just what it means in universe. Here, it's a sign that Sun immediately clocked Blake as a fellow Faunus. I think it would be an interesting thing that just happens, Faunus being able to immediately recognize each other for what they are. Kinda like a sixth sense. Or maybe just regular senses, because they're heightened in one way or another, however you choose to understand the mechanics behind it. I'm just going with the saying we have here, «Рыбак рыбака видит издалека», which literally means a fisherman sees a fisherman from a mile away. If you would remember, back in episode 11.2, the scene our viewer won't see, Anne also immediately recognized that Blake is a faunus. They just know. So yeah, that wink was Sun going, I know which you are. So with that, let's go back to the story, specifically to the part the cliff notes for which I titled, Where the hell did Sun and Blake fuck off to for 2 whole days? Of course, Blake didn't exactly have time to grab a coat while she was rushing out the dorm in a panic. So now she's freezing and struggling to keep her aura up to protect herself from the cold with all of the shaking her body is doing. Of course she was landing herself in a situation like this, just her luck. And she's even more annoyed since Sun is walking right beside her in an open shirt and cropped jeans, not bothered at all by the snow falling. How exactly is he fine like that while she's freezing her ass off? Oh, I just run hot, and I'm not talking about my Dashin looks. Blake rolls her eyes. That's not an answer. I mean, that's it. And like, it's been colder in Mistral lately, so this is nothing. Blake is confused. How the hell did he come on a ship from Vakio if he's from Mistral? Sun laughs, explaining that he is from Vakio, but he's studying at Haven. He was visiting his cousin back home before coming here. Now it's my turn to ask. We aren't playing 20 questions. Too bad, I'm asking anyway. Fine. So, why exactly I was speeding away from the school at this hour? And why aren't you with the other girlies? That's 2 questions, and I don't want to talk about it. Sun shrugs. Fair enough. With that, he gets silent, just following her from the airship into Vale and down the streets, looking around curiously. Blake decided not to reprimand him for going after her. While it is kind of annoying, she does feel a little bit safer going around the city at night with someone else. And at least he knows when to take a hint and shut up. Other things Blake is now blaming her luck for, skipping lunch and not having her wallet on her. She hopes Sun doesn't hear her stomach growling. Though who is she kidding, seems like he's got heightened hearing too. He ran out to a 24-hour food stall, returning with some fresh hot snacks. I'll share these if you share some of your secrets, oh the mysterious one. Blake is too hungry to refuse. As the first secret, she allows him to follow her to the place he's been trying to get to. A bookshop? I mean, nice coping mechanism, but isn't it closed until morning? It's owned by an old acquaintance. I stayed here for a bit during summer before going to Beacon. The burly man that opened the back door just looked at her in surprise, but let them in anyway, without asking any questions. Sun sat at a table, politely ignoring the quiet conversation Blake held with the owner, Tucson, he learned. Of course, to not spoil the moment of Volume 2 cold open, the audience won't know that Tucson is a faunus, nor that he's trying to get out of White Fang, which Blake knows about, that's why she went to him. But for our sake, we realize that Sun immediately recognized that Tucson is one of their own and is hiding it. He doesn't ask, assuming he's also trying to pass for a human, and assuming that's why Blake trusts him enough to camp out here. With whatever they've been talking about settled and Tucson going back to sleep, Blake turns her attention to Sun. Why are you still here? You accompanied me, thank you. You can leave now. Well, it's not like I have a place to stay either. What? Don't you have your team waiting for you? Sun snorts. Nah, they're still in Mistral. They'll come closer to start of second semester. Right. So yeah, I've got nothing better to do, and you seem like you could use a friend. Or, you know, at least someone to make sure you don't get jumped while brooding mysteriously. Well, she did note that she did feel safer in numbers. Blake sighs. Fine, but only if you don't start asking dumb questions. Sun shrugs. You said you don't want to talk about it. And with that, she takes the couch and he curls up in an armchair, complaining next morning about his neck aching from it. Blake bluntly says that he decided to follow her on his own, so it's his problem. Sun pounds, joking and reminded her that the breakfast they're having is on his land. Blake gives him a look and intentionally orders more. She's still uneasy about all of those recent robberies. It plagues her mind so much she wants to look into it, but doesn't know where to start. She doesn't know any local criminal organizations besides the obvious big shot Roman Torchwick, but he seems to be working alone. And she doesn't want to think it's all White Fang's doing. She knows them. She knows how they operate and the specific procedures Sienna put in place. Robbing small local dust shops is not what she would have approved, quite the opposite. It doesn't sit right with Blake. She knows there's something there, like a gut feeling, but she can't put a finger on it. And Sun just keeps following her, asking silly questions about small things, about Vale, but avoiding the ones she deemed as don't want to talk about. She knows he must be wondering why she spent a whole day just going from one robbed dust shop to another all over Vale. And with no leads found to connect the scattered dots in her head, she decides she might need an outside perspective. So, you want to know more about me? Okay, so originally this used to be a singular big episode, but if you saw my community tab, it ended up way too long to the point that I had to split it up. And this is the perfect place to stop, just like the original chapter 15. So next time we will continue the black and white arc as if nothing happened. So I'll see you there and on the other side.